In a little while, we will witness the story of the Titanic and the process of its sinking. We will see the moment of impact from inside the ship, and we will look at the actual images of the iceberg that sank the Titanic and the mark it left on the ship. Then we will learn what those who fell into the water experienced through an experiment, and we will chase after the truth. Laughter, music. Music. The sound you hear belonged to the distress call sent from the Titanic. With the help of the telegraph, distress calls were sent to other ships using Morse signals. The Titanic had slowly begun to sink. At the head of the telegraph was a 25-year-old named Jack Phillips. He did not leave his post until the communication room was submerged. That young man acted heroically until the very end, but nothing he did was enough. The Titanic would only be found 73 years after its first sinking, and everything would begin with the discovery of the wreckage. The mysterious story of the Titanic music, everything began years and years ago, in 1912, 111 years ago from today, with a headline in large letters, "Titanic is setting off on its maiden voyage." A visual of the ship and ticket prices were also featured in the newspaper. The story of the Titanic was essentially based on a challenge. Transatlantic passenger trade was highly profitable and innovative, with shipping lines competing to carry wealthy travelers and immigrants. Two companies in particular were in a race. The White Star Line Company would build two ships and set a record for crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Their rival wanted to respond, but chose a different path instead of building fast ships. In 1908, the company formed an army of workers, mostly Irish laborers, with the goal of building a revolutionary passenger ship. "We may not be fast, but who wants to travel across an ocean while constantly throwing up?" they said. That was their motto. Their goal was to dominate the transit between Europe and America within 5 years. Finally, the colossal RMS Olympic was launched. It was the largest ship the world had ever seen up to that point. This 45,000-ton ship had a capacity to carry 1,000 people. The company would soon launch another ship, the real apple of their eye, the RMS Titanic. 200,000 people gathered to witness the launching of the Titanic, which was built by approximately 14,000 people. Those who saw it being launched felt as if the ground, not the ship, was moving. For the people living at that time, it was a gigantic ship. Just one of the Titanic's anchors weighed 15 tons. The ship's interior was furnished with the most ostentatious and expensive items. Some thought that instead of this display of extravagance, they should have allocated the money to technology, because at that time, ships with 4 propellers and higher maneuverability were being built. However, the White Star Line Company did not want the Titanic to stand out with its technology. The Titanic was set to depart from England for its maiden voyage on April 10, 1912. Its destination was New York. The ship, commanded by Captain Smith, left England around noon. It would first go to the French port of Cherbourg, then stop at Queenstown, and from there proceed to New York. As the ship left the port, the operators were warned that there might be icebergs during the southward journey. These were warnings they were accustomed to. These warnings were generally considered routine in the Atlantic Ocean. At 9:30 p.m., a ship named Masaba, ahead of the Titanic, reported seeing large icebergs around the route it was passing through. However, although the warning was received by Phillips and Harold in the communication room, it was not conveyed to the captain. This was because they were busy at the time relaying messages that first-class passengers wanted to send to those awaiting them in New York via the telegraph, the fastest means of socialization of the era. The weather suddenly turned much colder, as if the cold breath of death was somewhere nearby. The sea was absolutely calm. The Titanic had lookouts known as crow's nests, and 2 lookouts would rotate with 2 others every 2 hours. It was close to midnight. The ship was sailing off the southern coast of the Grand Banks. The lookout briefly saw something in front of the ship that could not be clearly made out. It was dark, so he couldn't distinguish it, but it was an iceberg. Frederick rang the ship's bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge. First Officer Murdoch gave the command, "hard a starboard," which is used to quickly turn the ship's rudder in one direction. Although the ship's speed was only 40 kilometers per hour, it was now impossible to stop the colossal mass. Just 37 seconds later, at 11:40 p.m., The ship struck the iceberg on the starboard side. The iceberg sliced the ship like a razor. Bending occurred in many.